Okay, so joint isos are the thing I do right now that make me feel better than any other thing I incorporate in my training. We can see them almost as a prerequisite to the joint moves or the moving down the chain kind of joint movements that I already have a playlist on up in YouTube in my channel. This is at its deepest, teaching the mind to contract the right muscle with as clear of a connection as possible. So if we imagine the elbow joint, because it's probably one of the easiest to be understood. The bicep flexes the elbow, the tricep extends it. So in a joint move, I'm setting a tie ball. I've lost the power of speech. So I'm setting a timer. I use 60 seconds. I think 60 seconds is a great start, and I'll explain that later on in the video, but let's set an arbitrary 60-second timer. And I'm flexing the elbow, trying to connect with the bicep as much as I can, and actively, continually pulling the bicep and pulling the forearm in as close to the shoulder as I possibly can. So over time, the elbow joint should actually be closing and the joint angle should be becoming smaller and smaller over the 60 seconds. Now, that's the goal. That's how we want to express this ability to connect to the muscle. But what we'll find is, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 seconds in, depending on how good that connection is. And it will vary from joint to joint, depending on how well joints are used or how much they're misused. But you'll find that there comes a point where a shakiness starts to begin, or a dullness where you almost feel like, even though you're trying to contract, the elbow is actually, or the joint is actually opening up and falling back into its neutral original position. So yeah, the aim here is to really try and be there. Like, as soon as your mind is elsewhere, as soon as you feel like you don't want to be doing this, as soon as all these things arise, you will not be able to get the most out of this exercise. So while the playlist is going to include every single joint, and I think it's an ideal to strive toward, to do every joint if we can, maybe once a week, if not twice. I would start where you feel you need the most emphasis, like just to do it, you know what I mean? Just to ease yourself into it. But then over time, we do want to bring everything up, because if one thing improves, that's the nature of the body, something else becomes susceptible to imbalance. I might fix my hips after 20 years of pain, and then something goes wrong with the knees, right? So we've got to bring everything up together if we can, but we've also got to ease ourselves into it. Right now I do these once, maybe 2 times a week. I'd like to do them more than that, but definitely the one time, just focusing on those things that I really need and feel that I want. I just feel like absolutely fucking amazing, I'm not gonna lie. Especially the neck stuff for me, the shoulders, which I definitely have a lack of connection in. Like, truly, there is nothing like it. So we're teaching the muscle how to contract, and we're teaching the opposing muscle how to relax, the antagonist muscle how to relax, so that the active muscle can contract as much as possible. And this is where optimal movement and athleticism lies. Like, if I'm jumping and on the way down my quads are contracting and preventing me from going as far down into the squat as I possibly can, I just can't jump as high as I possibly can. So if we can teach the muscle, if we can strengthen those muscles in those positions, and we can teach them to fire appropriately, like everything, it unlocks a whole new level of possibilities. And then yes, we need to work on that, but this is like, I think it's at the foundation of everything, or one of the things that are at the foundation of everything. So one more thing, how do I incorporate? Right now I'm doing 60 seconds, just closing that joint as much as I can, focus on contracting the moving muscle, focusing on relaxing the opposing muscle. 60 seconds for me, I think, is a great period of time to start with, because with most muscles, like, I just can't hold that contraction in for those 60 seconds. At some point, the connection begins to get lost, and so I really need to dig in really need to focus to you almost find it again. And that's kind of where we want to be, the shakiness, the losing of connection to try and regain it. That's where we're adapting, in my opinion. Yeah, you could go up to 90 seconds. Yeah, you could weigh things down, so you could hold a weight and do the joint contraction. But honestly, like, at least for me personally, I feel like I'll be reaping benefits out of the 60 seconds for a long time. Like, I feel like if I'm not at the point where I can fully contract and hold it for 60 seconds straight on every joint, then there's not a real reason for me to progress. That doesn't mean that there isn't for you, of course. But yeah, that's just my 2 cents on how to engage with these. So anyway, without further ado and without further blabbering and mispronouncing words, let's get stuck in, baby.